Welcome to Beautifully Consumed, where I believe the best way to live a life with purpose is by loving and becoming your most true self. Because when you know yourself fully, you shine a light that gives others the permission to do the same. I'm your host, Leigh. I'm here to inspire and encourage you by sharing my journey, the stories of others, and all the tips, tricks, and life lessons about aligning with your highest self. You're in the right place if you're ready to be wildly dedicated to finding your purpose, becoming your most true self, and learning what it means to be beautifully consumed with living a life that is undeniably yours. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Beautifully Consumed. I'm your host, Leigh. Thank you so much for being here today. Whether this is your first time listening or you've listened to every episode all the way through, I just want to say thank you so much. I appreciate you listening more than you could ever know. And I have a real quick favor to ask of you. If you're loving listening to the podcast, would you leave a rating or review? Or if you're listening on Spotify or YouTube, leave a comment down below. Not only does this help me to understand and get feedback from you to know that you're loving the podcast, but it also lets the platforms you're listening on know that you're loving what you're listening to. And then they're going to push it out to more people. It helps the podcast grow and reach a bigger audience. And that's really why I started this, was to have an impact on as many people as I possibly can. So take a few seconds, leave a rating, review, or a comment below. It would really mean so much to me. So thank you so much for taking the time to do that. Okay, so in today's episode, we are beautifully consumed with waiting. Now, this episode is going to be for you if you feel like you're in a season of, waiting, but if you're feeling like frustrated or stuck with where you are, maybe where you aren't, or where you thought you would be, or where you think you should be, if you're just kind of like feeling in a rut in general, I really want to speak to you today. Now, this episode was not planned at all. I actually was driving to meet some friends for dinner and just kind of had this like download, if you will, and these thoughts popping into my head. And it was just sort of a message that I really wanted to share with you. And I'm actually sitting here. It's like 10 o'clock on a Friday night, hence why I'm filming in the dark. Anyway, I did not have this episode planned. Sometimes I wish I just had a mic and all of my recording equipment with me, because I feel like so often when I'm driving or out on a walk or at the gym, I just get these really awesome ideas and want to share them with you. So that is why I wanted to come home right away after dinner to share this message with you while it was still fresh on my mind. So like I said, I was driving on my way to meet some friends for dinner, and it should have only been like a 30-minute drive, but it was actually an hour because of traffic. I live in Charlotte. I sit in traffic quite a bit. That's pretty typical for living in Charlotte. And it sort of just got me thinking while I was sitting in traffic and sort of thinking there's two types of people when it comes to waiting in traffic. There's your people who are going to get frustrated, angry, upset, anxious, just all these negative emotions, and it really just gets to them. And I've been that person too. I wouldn't necessarily categorize myself as that type of person, but traffic certainly has done that to me before, and I'm sure you listening to it has done that to you as well. But there's that kind of person, and then there's the kind of person that's just whatever. It is what it is. We've got to sit here anyway, and we're going to get to where we're going when we get there. And yeah, it's frustrating, and yes, it's inconvenient, but sometimes there's just nothing you can do about it. I would definitely categorize myself as that second version. It's kind of just this definitely sucks, but what are we going to do? We're just going to sit here and we're going to get there when we get there. There's nothing we can do about it. And it just sort of started to make me think about waiting and how this applies to life as well. I want you to think about if you resonate with this, is there something in your life where you feel like you're in a season of waiting, or you feel like you're supposed to be somewhere, but you're not there yet, or you're frustrated with what you haven't achieved yet, or maybe things haven't gone exactly to plan, or you thought you would have done this by now, or you thought you should have done this by now and you haven't, or you're working really hard towards something and you haven't gotten there yet and it's frustrating. Or maybe you're just like one of those people that looks for the next big thing. You accomplish something and you get there, and then you're constantly looking for what's next. I can relate with all of these things. So trust me, if you're feeling that way, you're certainly not alone, because I have felt all of those things myself. So I want you to kind of think about whatever it is in your life that you're feeling stuck, or you're feeling like you just aren't able to get where you're wanting to go, and you're waiting and it's just not going the way you thought. Think about it like you're sitting in traffic. So, like I said, we've got two options when we're sitting in traffic. We can choose to be angry and frustrated and anxious and just be in a bad mood, or we can turn the radio on, listen to some music, or turn a podcast on, give a phone call to someone that we haven't talked to in a while, and wait it out, because we're going to get to where we're going. It may not be when we thought we were going to get there. It may not be how we thought we were going to get there. You know, sometimes you can pull up your GPS and see if there's an alternative route. Sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't. Sometimes that alternative route is down a bunch of windy back roads and dirt roads, and you might end up getting stuck. It might end up actually taking you longer if you take that alternative route. That's certainly happened to me before. But when it comes to sitting in traffic, really at the end of the day, there's nothing you can do. And we're going to get to where we're going eventually, but it may not look like how we planned it. It may not be in the time that we planned it, but we're going to get there. And in that period of waiting, there's no point in being mad or angry or frustrated or anxious. There's really, in my eyes, the only option is just to enjoy it and be present and be in that moment and just say, you know what, it is what it is. Like, it's not going according to plan, but there's nothing I can do about it, and sort of like letting go of control a little bit on that. And in that time that we're waiting, what really is waiting anyway? Because if we're waiting to get to our destination and then we get there, then what? We're just going to wait until we get to our next destination, or wait until the next thing. I want you to try to reframe the way you look at waiting. Almost eliminate it from your vocabulary. Like, what is waiting actually anyway? Because in my eyes, waiting is just life. It's just living. Because if we're constantly waiting to get to our destination, or waiting to achieve this next thing, or waiting for this next milestone, or waiting to do this thing, we're always going to be waiting. And so I want to encourage you to look at waiting instead of waiting as living. Like, that is just life. And we have got to learn to just like accept and enjoy and slow down and like be in the present moment. And I know that's easier said than done, but we cannot live our lives just like waiting for the next thing and waiting to get where we're going, because then what are we waiting for? Like, we're waiting to die, really, at that point. Like, we can't just spend our whole lives waiting. We have to spend our whole lives living instead. And I don't know about you, but I believe in God. I believe in Jesus. If you believe in God, if you believe in the universe or some type of higher power, I fully believe that everything happens for a reason. With my whole heart, I believe everything happens for a reason, and that there's a plan and a reason for everything. And we are never late. We're always on time. Everything is happens is exactly how it is supposed to happen. My faith definitely reaffirms that. There's a Bible verse that I really love that kind of speaks to this. It's Jeremiah 29:11. It says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Basically, just saying that, like, God has plans for us bigger than plans we could ever know. And his plan is better than what our plan or what our idea of our plan could ever be. Maybe you don't believe in God. Maybe you just believe in signs from the universe or some type of creator or higher power. But trusting and knowing and believing that everything happens for a reason, everything happens exactly on time and as it's supposed to. I believe that. I fully believe that. And I would encourage you to try to believe that yourself too. And I know that sometimes things are really hard and we go through things that we don't understand. But I promise you that in my eyes, God has a plan for you and for me and for our lives and exactly how it's supposed to go. And it's more beautiful than we could ever dream up ourselves. And so to wait and be frustrated by waiting is to not trust that everything happens for a reason. If you believe in God, that is to not trust in God's plan for you, to not trust in the universe's timing for your life, to not trust in whatever higher power you believe has an influence on your life. When you wait with anger and frustration and anxiety and this sense of like, I've got to get to this next place. And then from there, I'm going to wait until I get to the next place and then wait till I get to the next place. Like, that's just not an enjoyable way to go about life or to sit in traffic. Like, try to look at your life as sitting in a traffic jam. And how are you going to enjoy sitting in that traffic jam? Because sometimes that just is what it is, and that is how it happens. And you can either choose to be angry and frustrated and sad or mad or upset or whatever in a bad mood, or you can choose to just sit there and take advantage of it and enjoy a little bit of time for yourself, singing some tunes in the car, and just trust that you're going to get to where you're going. It may not be when you thought you were going to get there or in the route you thought you were going to get there, but you will get there. Your life will work out how it's supposed to. You are always on time. You are never late. Like, you are exactly where you are supposed to be at this moment. It was so interesting. I actually saw today, a friend of mine posted, she kind of has had a rough, like, couple of years, went through a breakup and some ups and downs in her personal life and business and stuff like that. And just was like having a really hard time. And she has really worked on like finding herself and traveling and meeting new people and experiencing new things. And I actually just saw her post today saying, she said, I used to hear people say, oh, everything happens for a reason, and just think it was a load of BS because of, I'm going through such a hard time. How could that possibly be? But then she just posted today saying, I used to think that, but now I see it. Now I believe it. Now I fully get why people say everything happens for a reason and everything happens exactly as it's supposed to be and exactly in the time that it's supposed to happen. Because if you don't go through these hard times, or if you don't have these periods of waiting or, frustration or challenges or adversity, how are you going to be prepared for what is coming for you? Like, I can look at my life. There's so many examples of ways that I have failed or things that haven't gone to plan or things that I've wanted to achieve and haven't achieved, but they all lined up so perfectly for things to work out better than I thought they could. For example, when I was graduating from college and looking for jobs, I applied to all these jobs and there was this one that I really, really wanted and I didn't get it. And I actually didn't get any of the jobs that I wanted. And it was very frustrating and like I just felt like my whole world was crumbling down. But then I ended up getting this other job that wasn't even on my radar. That job turned out to be one of the best jobs I've ever had in my whole life. I met some of the best people I'm still friends with to this day, had some of the most amazing experiences. And then I applied for a promotion and I didn't get it. I was heartbroken. I was shattered, shocked. Like, I thought, what is going on? Like, this is what was supposed to be my next step. But then I got a different job, which allowed me to move to Charlotte, which is allowed me to move closer to Brad so our relationship could grow. That job allowed me to work remotely and figure out that I wanted to start my own business and gave me the time to start my own business. And then I quit that job and I took my business full time. And now here I am. Like, there's so many things that didn't go according to plan or things that I wanted to achieve in a certain amount of time and I didn't. I felt like I was behind. I felt like I was stuck. But all of those things worked out perfectly to get me here to where I am today. So I can look back at my own life and see examples, and that, as well as my faith, just lets me know that like that will be the case moving forward. Like, things don't always go as planned. We aren't going to get to where we want to go exactly when we want to get there or how we want to get there, but what we will achieve and where we will get to and when we get there and how we get there will be exactly how it was supposed to be and better than probably we could have planned or imagined. And again, I know that life throws us some really tough curveballs, and there's just some things that don't make sense. There are some things that are so hard to process, and some things are never going to go our way. We might not ever get to the destination that we thought we were going to get to, or we might not ever achieve the things we thought we were going to achieve. But what I encourage you to do is to learn to love the process of just living. Like, we have got to shift our mindset from waiting to living, because this is life. Like, what are we waiting for? There's nothing to wait for. What happens will happen, and we're dealt the cards we're dealt. Of course, we can work towards our goals and we can work to achieve things. I'm not saying that like everything is just up in the air and you should abandon all efforts or, things that you're working towards. That's certainly not what I'm saying, but I'm just saying that when life doesn't go to plan, or when we feel like we're supposed to be somewhere, but we haven't gotten there, that is okay. And I know, especially for people in our 20s and our 30s, like, this feels super relevant, because I know when I turned 30, it felt like this like bomb of turning 30. Like, oh my gosh, what am I doing with my life? I haven't done this, haven't done that. Like, we have so much pressure to buy a house, be in a relationship, get married, have kids, have an amazing career, have all this money, have savings, have traveled the world, have done everything on our bucket list. Like, throw all of that out the window. And I'm talking to myself here too. Like, I struggle with this as well. There's so many societal pressures and norms and stuff that society puts on us, but we also put on ourselves too. And I know I can get caught up in like, okay, I've got to achieve this. Okay, now I achieved it. Okay, now what's next? Okay, I achieved that. Okay, now what's next? Instead of just like enjoying the process. Or I do get frustrated that like I haven't achieved things I wanted to achieve, or I'm not where I thought I would be, or I haven't, like, my life isn't going how I thought it would go, but that's okay. Like, I just want to encourage you again, back to this analogy of traffic. I was just sitting in traffic and this all just came to me. And I was like, wow, this is literally the perfect analogy for life. Life is like sitting in traffic. So you have two options. You can choose to have a bad attitude about it, or you can choose to enjoy it. Turn the music up, call somebody you love, sit in silence, be with your thoughts. Like, you have two options. You can have a bad attitude or you can have a good attitude, but whichever attitude you have, you're going to get to where you're supposed to be going. So you might as well enjoy the ride. Okay, that was a little cheesy to end out with, but I want to leave you with a couple of affirmations that you can say to yourself when you're feeling this way, when you're feeling frustrated, or when you're feeling impatient, or feeling in a season of waiting and like you're not accomplishing the things you want to accomplish, or checking off all these things on your boxes. Affirmations are an awesome way to change your brain, change your mindset, and really help you to work on feeling more positive and being more positive. When you tell your brain something, your brain believes it. And so using affirmations on a regular basis are a great way for you to train your brain. And I found a couple of affirmations here that are really great for this particular topic that we are discussing today. So I want you to, if you're not in a place where you can repeat these out loud, just take a moment, whatever you're doing, sit down, put your headphones in or turn the volume up, and just take a moment and take a few deep breaths. And if you can, repeat after me when I say these affirmations. If you're not in a place where you can repeat them out loud, you can always save this and come back to it. In fact, I encourage you to come back to this and reuse it anytime you're feeling stuck or frustrated about being in a season of waiting, or maybe you're literally sitting in traffic and you're frustrated. Come back to these affirmations. Okay, take a deep breath and repeat after me. Everything I need comes to me exactly at the right moment. Everything I need comes to me exactly at the right moment. Everything is working out perfectly for me. Everything is working out perfectly for me. I trust that all will work out in the end. I will not give up. I trust that all will work out in the end. I will not give up. Just because it's taking time doesn't mean it's not happening. Just because it's taking time doesn't mean it's not happening. Everything comes to me at the right time. Everything comes to me at the right time. I am trusting in the divine plan for my life. I am trusting in the divine plan for my life. Okay, take another deep breath. And like I said, I encourage you to use these affirmations and come back to them anytime you're feeling stuck or frustrated about waiting, about getting to where you want to go, or feeling like you're not where you want to be or where you should be. I want you to think about your life as sitting in traffic, okay? We're not waiting anymore. We are just living. We are living in the moment. We are enjoying every minute of our time and trusting that we will get to where we are supposed to be going, exactly when we are supposed to get there and exactly how we were supposed to get there, even if that is not how we planned it at all, because that is life. That is living. Okay. Thank you so much for listening to me today. I hope you enjoyed this more like casual, off the cuff type of episode. Like I said, this was not planned at all. I literally just thought of this on my drive. So I'd be really interested to know what you think of this episode. If you want to hear more like little streams of thoughts from me, like I said, leave a rating, review, or comment. Let me know what you thought of the episode, and I will see you next week. All right, bye.